Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com and welcome to PhoneDog Live. Coincidentally, my phone decided to vibrate as soon as I started. That was awesome. I don't know if you guys could hear that though. So yeah, welcome to PhoneDog Live. This is PhoneDog's weekly, whatever you want to call it. I call it a vodcast because it's a podcast, but there's video, so it's like a vodcast, but I've had people tell me that that's not what I should call it, so you can call it the magical video segments that we see every Friday from PhoneDog with that chick that's sort of hot, depending on who you talk to. So I'm glad everyone is here, whatever you want to call this. I'm glad everyone is here. If you're on Ustream, you can, and my phone's vibrating a bit again. That's awesome. Okay, so if you're on Ustream, you can see the topic at the top, what we're going to start with. You can also leave your comments while we're discussing the topic. I'll also be on Facebook, so feel free to leave your comments there. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching the recording of it, you can leave your comments in the comment section. I'll be checking those comments and responding to some of them. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can check the description below the video because I'll be putting the timeline there with all of the topics that we discussed. So you don't have to watch the whole thing. You can just skip to the topic that you want to listen to or watch and just skip to that and then skip to the next one just to make it a little easier for you guys. So let's get started. As you can see on Ustream, the first topic is the Apple lawsuits that have been going on for quite some time. There was the Samsung lawsuit, and then that kind of like died off, and then we had sort of some results, kind of a preliminary result with that, and then, but now we're hearing more lawsuits that Apple has filed against Motorola, and so yeah, I wanted to talk about it. You know, it's kind of, well, obviously it's a touchy subject. As soon as you mention it, and all you have to ask is, you know, do you think Apple has gone too far? And you'll get, you know, people from both sides kind of, you know, making their case. And to be honest, it's really, you could really come at it from both ways. I think if you want to support Apple's decision, I think that's fine. If you think it's wrong what Apple is doing, I mean, there's logical arguments for both sides, and we're going to discuss those. But I just want to say before we get started that this isn't, you know, really, we're not going to discuss just, okay, Apple is wrong, they shouldn't be doing this, or no, Apple isn't wrong, they can do whatever they want. This is kind of just a free space where you can share your opinion, and me as sort of the moderator of this discussion, I'm just going to kind of be throwing facts out there and, you know, different sides of the story, and then, you know, I'll let you guys form your own opinion. This is, after all, PhoneDog, you know, so we're not just strictly Android, and we're not just strictly iPhone, so you kind of have to come at it from an unbiased point of view, and that's what we're going to try to do today. But first of all, to get started, just a couple of details about the lawsuit. So first, this lawsuit was filed against Samsung. We originally heard about it in conjunction with the Samsung Galaxy S because the claim was made that the icons and the UI as a whole really kind of copied the UI that Apple uses on the iPhone. And to a certain extent, that was a valid argument. I think that most people would agree that those icons did resemble the icons that Apple used. Now, you know, whether or not you agree that Apple should sue you know, people were kind of on the fence about that. It just kind of depended on who you talk to. But anyway, after that, the Galaxy Tab was then brought into the equation, into the lawsuit. The Galaxy Tab 10.1, not necessarily the original Galaxy Tab, the 7-inch version. But the Galaxy Tab 10.1 was brought into the lawsuit. And so this is what the courts have decided as of right now. Samsung's Galaxy Tab 10.1 is now banned from sale in Europe. It was also temporarily banned in Australia. What is going on with my phone? It's just going crazy. The sale was also temporarily banned in Australia. Now Samsung has said that, you know, they'll post another date for it to go on sale as soon as they possibly can. So we're hoping this isn't a permanent thing. But for the time being, Australia can't sell it, and it's banned also in Europe as of this preliminary ruling. So Samsung is, of course, going to appeal the ruling. They're going to have their day in court. August 25th is when they're going to go and argue their case and hopefully get the ban lifted. And basically it was the same thing as the Samsung Galaxy S. Apple said that the design of the Galaxy Tab was just too close to the iPhone and the iPad, and it violated patents related to their design. Now, we're not entirely sure of all of the details on this, if it's the design of the UI and the OS, or if it's the hardware design of just the tablet. Obviously, you can make a case for both, so we're going to just pretend that it's both, just for the sake of having something to talk about. Okay, so then, that all happens. Galaxy Tab is not sold in Europe or Australia. Samsung is going to appeal it. And then we heard that Apple is now filing a similar lawsuit against Motorola. Coincidentally, they're filing the same lawsuit in the same court that had the preliminary decision to ban sales of the Galaxy Tab. So obviously they're hoping to get some, not favoritism, but some understanding there. So they filed a similar lawsuit against Motorola, saying again that Motorola violated patents that have to do with 3G, GPRS, wireless, Wi-Fi, antenna design, and of course Motorola is firing back and saying, well, you violated these patents and blah blah blah. So that's basically just a summary of everything that's happened. Now, and you guys, I can see are already discussing this. Now, I'm going to try to come at this from both angles. Obviously, there's the angle of, yeah, the Galaxy Tab, its hardware design does look similar to the iPad, but, it's kind of a generic design. If you think about it, it's basically a laptop with no keyboard. It's just that, front panel, and it also happens to be a touchscreen, which is basically what a touchscreen tablet would be, a laptop with no keyboard, So it's not like Samsung, it's not like iPad or Apple came up with this revolutionary hardware design. I mean, it was kind of the obvious thing. Oh, I want to make a touchscreen, tablet. Let's just take a laptop and cut off the keyboard. So it was kind of an obvious choice, and therefore it was kind of an obvious choice for Samsung to choose the same hardware design. So you could say, how else are they going to design it? I mean, they can't make the circle, or it's not like Apple patented the rectangle or patented, the overall hardware design. At least, I mean, if they did, that seems kind of ridiculous. And then somebody in, I believe it was Mac Rumors, the website, in their forums, posted an interesting graphic, kind of making his case, or her case, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, his or her case about how manufacturers have blatantly copied the iPad's design. So here's the graphic that was created, and as you can see, it on the top it says before iPad, and then the iPad comes out, and then it's after the iPad. So before the iPad, it was, all kinds of weird and wonky designs, and then after the iPad, it all basically looks exactly like the iPad. Now, what this person fails to recognize is that 3 or 2, at least, out of these 4 tablets are actually supposed to be used in horizontal landscape mode, not portrait mode. But anyway, so he's basically saying before the iPad, they all looked crazy and weird, and after the iPad, they all look, basically like the iPad. And I was like, that's a good point. I mean, all of the tablets do actually resemble the iPad. So I started doing some digging and trying to find, are these the only tablets that really came out? And they are, obviously, some of the tablets that came out, but they're not all of them. For example, I want to show you guys this tablet. This is called the Arcos 5. It's called an internet tablet. And I want you guys to guess whenever this tablet came out. Okay, it's obviously running Android. It's a touchscreen only. It had a 5-inch display, hence the name Arcos 5. It also was capable of web browsing, so you can see, Google, New York Times, and it also did gaming, obviously through the Android market. So you have, possibly a Need for Speed or Asphalt 5 game here. So very similar to the functionality of the iPad. The design is very similar to the iPad except for kind of those curved edges, but that's, design differences that we still have today. Okay, so I have 2005, 2007. Yeah, and AJ, you're right. This tablet actually came out in 2009. It was actually, hold on, let me find my info. This tablet was actually released in September of 2009. And then Arcos came out with another tablet, which was called the Arcos 9. Now, this didn't necessarily run a mobile OS; it was actually full Windows. It was the Arcos 9, and this tablet came out again in 2009. It was October of 2009. Okay, so let's take a look at another tablet while my phone goes off again. Okay, so let's take a look at this tablet. Now, this is obviously an older tablet. You can kind of tell that this is not a modern day tablet, but you still have that basic design of the flat panel, a touchscreen display, and then, not a whole lot else going on, a couple of buttons, here and there. So kind of very similar to the iPad. This tablet actually came out in 2002, okay? So, long before the iPad. And then one more example, this is the Ramos W7. Okay, so take a look at this. This is a Ramos W7. I have never heard of the manufacturing company. It obviously runs Android, but it's a very nice looking tablet. Maybe nobody bought it, but the fact is that it was made at some point. So if you look at that and you wonder, hey, I wonder when that was made. That was also sold in 2009, before the iPad was released. So it's true that there were tablets that looked really weird and wonky before the iPad came out, but there were also a lot of tablets that came out before the iPad that had the same basic design, and it wasn't because, some genius came up with it or patented the design. It was simply because it was a tablet and it was the only design that made sense. We're going to take a laptop and we're going to cut off the keyboard because we don't need it because we have a touchscreen, and that's basically what you get, the laptop panel. So, you can look at it as, okay, well, this is the idea that Apple really made popular, which is true, but the fact still remains that there were plenty of tablets around before then that had the same basic design. That's one way that you could look at it. Now, the other way to look at it is again coming from the point of view that Apple did make this design popular. People recognize a tablet as that. Arcos had that tablet. Paceblade had that tablet. Ramos. I want to turn off my phone. Ramos had that tablet, even though I don't even know if anyone bought it. It's true that other people made tablets and they were sold before the iPad, but Apple really made that form factor popular. And also, if you think about it, the design of having the bezel with the display, if they wanted to, they could make that bezel, non-existent. If they came up with a technology for it, they could have no bezel and just a display, or maybe a really, really thin bezel. But no, for some reason, all the manufacturers have the same thick bezel. So, that's not really necessary. Somebody could decide to not have a bezel, but for some reason they want to have it. Why is that? Well, because Apple made that design popular. And also, you have to look at it from the point of view of, I see in the comments for Ustream, octagon is where it's at. You think we should have an octagon-shaped tablet? I don't know if that would sell too well. But anyway, you also have to look at it as from the point of view of, it's a business. Apple has these patents, and so they have the right to defend their patents. Now, granted, it's not necessary to sue every company that violates a patent that you own. That happens all the time. I mean, there's patents that are violated all the time, but companies don't sue either because, maybe they feel it's not necessary, or it'd be a waste of their money, or the company that's violating it isn't large enough to, really make it worth it. Or maybe they do kind of say, hey, you're violating our patents, let's come to some sort of agreement here, a licensing deal, which is what we see all the time. So it's not necessary for Apple to defend every single patent it has. Oh my god, this phone just keeps going off. But the fact still remains that Apple has the right to defend their patent. So, there's kind of two different ways to look at it. I thought it was also interesting in the when I was reading. By the way, I read these articles about these lawsuits, and you kind of form your own opinions about it. And I was like, that's ridiculous for Apple to be suing all these companies. I mean, what other design are these companies going to use? But then I decided to read the comments, and this one article had like 400 comments, and I read all of them, which is where I got all of these different opinions. And I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense. So, but anyway, while I was reading these comments, it's interesting because you may have heard before the argument of cars. Ford can't. Well, I mean, Ford could sue Toyota or Chevrolet, but is Ford going to sue Chevy for building a car with four wheels, an engine, a windshield, a hood? Are they going to sue every car manufacturer because they have a patent and Ford built the first car or invented the car. But I thought it was interesting that people actually took this argument so far that this one person made this argument that Henry Ford didn't actually invent the automobile. Another guy invented the idea of the automobile. Someone else invented combustion engines. And then Henry Ford invented the assembly line, which made it possible to have kind of economically priced cars. So if you ever hear that, I thought it was just kind of funny that people took this argument so far that they went so far as to research and kind of disprove how that analogy doesn't really fit. So if you hear that analogy of Toyota or Ford suing Toyota, apparently it doesn't really apply because I guess Henry Ford didn't actually invent the car, which is strange because that's what I heard in school. But anyway, so that's just kind of a side note. A couple of other comments that I read. Some people brought out that they don't think that the Zoom and the Galaxy Tab look like the iPad, which I think is kind of strange. Some people brought out how, why can't we all just get along and just kind of share patents? But again, it's a business. And then another person brought out that Apple didn't invent the tablet, they improved it to a point that it is highly desirable, which goes back to the fact that, okay, maybe they didn't come up with this hardware design, but they certainly made it very popular, and therefore people like that hardware design, which is one of the reasons why Motorola and Samsung is using that hardware design instead of simply trying to come up with something else themselves. I'm going to check the comments on Ustream just to see what we come up with. They reinvented it. There is so much cross-licensing and potential for mutual lawsuits in the auto industry that no one wants to sue anyone and kick off the enormous patent battle, which is basically what's happened now in the cell phone and tablet manufacturing race. Yeah, we should just screw Apple. Okay. Let me see what else. Sure, they made it popular, but it doesn't mean they own the tablet itself. Invent instead of killing any competition. And Ford did not invent the assembly line either. Okay, I actually didn't do research on it. That was just kind of a side interesting note. Yeah, and that's a good point, too, that Apple, okay, maybe you have the right to sue, but how about instead of worrying about suing everybody, you just continue to innovate like you've been doing, which is how you got to the top. Like I said earlier, you could look at it from different ways. I kind of just wanted to share all of these different viewpoints because I think we can get stuck in this battle of, Apple is wrong and they shouldn't do it because of this, or Apple is right and they're doing it because of this. I think there's two ways to look at it, and I kind of just, after reading so many different viewpoints, I found some valid points on both sides, and so I just wanted to, share those with you. Maybe I think it's it's only fair to discuss both sides. But anyway, let's stop talking about that because I actually don't like a lot of controversy because I feel like every time I talk about either Apple or Android, someone always ends up calling me an Apple fangirl or an Android fangirl. But we just gotta be fair. So there it is. I didn't take a side. I just told you both sides, logical points for both, and then you can decide. The bottom line is that you can't convince, I mean, and somebody that agrees with Apple, chances are they're going to agree with Apple no matter what. Somebody that's an Android fan is going to, hate Apple no matter what. So, there's no use arguing about it, but it's good to kind of see it from both sides. So, moving on to something that's not controversial, um, let's talk about HTC and their deal with Beats by Dr. Dre, or Beats Audio, or all the different names for it. So, okay, so HTC, they sent off this press release on Tuesday that they were going to announce something huge, or was that Wednesday? They were going to announce something huge, and everyone was kind of guessing about it, and then like half an hour later, it got leaked, and we found out what it was anyway. So, it's kind of, the suspense didn't get to build overnight the way it was supposed to, but Okay, so HTC announced that they have signed a deal with Beats Electronics, which I guess is the official name for it. Now this deal it's a $300 million deal, which is a lot of money. HTC has a lot of money, but still, it's a lot of money. But with that $300 million, they now own 51% of the company that was started by Dr. Dre, and they're going to use the technology to improve the audio quality for digital music in their phones, obviously HTC phones. Now, there's a couple of questions that come up with this deal. For example, the first question is, how exactly are they going to implement this? Is this just going to be, are they going to like have Beats headphones in the box when you buy an HTC phone? You get a pair of Beats headphones, or is it going to be just Beats technology, sort of like what HP uses in their laptops? It's just Beats technology, which is supposed to improve the sound quality. How is that? Or is it just when you buy an HTC phone, you get $100 or $75 off of a pair of Beats headphones? That actually hasn't been, divulged yet by HTC. So if you're wondering that, I can't really tell you. We do know that Best Buy, right after the announcement, they announced a special that if you buy an HTC phone, you get a discount on Beats headphones, but that special was quickly removed. So, we're not sure if that was supposed to be released or if it was just kind of an accident or someone just threw it out there. So, I'm not sure. What I think is going to happen, from a business point of view, I think it's simply going to be Beats technology in the phone itself. Yes, it would be awesome to get a pair of Beats headphones in the box, but you can imagine in terms of cost for HTC and Beats Electronics, and then cost to the end user. I mean, the headphones, the cheapest pair costs like what, $150. You're going to end up paying $300 or $400 for a phone. It's just, it would be awesome to get the headphones, but just from a business point of view, I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think it's simply going to be integrated into the handset, improved audio quality. Now the next question is this a good idea for HTC? I mean, Beats is very popular, but I think most people agree that they don't have the best sound. It's kind of just, Dr. Dre is massively popular among the teens, and so, people buy his headphones. All the celebrities use them, all the sports stars use them, so people buy them because they look cool. But I think it's, a lot of people, especially audiophiles, recognize that they don't have the best sound quality. So was this a good partnership by HTC? Well, yes, I think it is, because what every phone manufacturer is trying to do is steal customers away from Apple. And maybe that's not the core of their business, but in all honesty, if you want to be successful as a smartphone manufacturer, you have to make something that is just as good or better as the iPhone. At least that's the current bar. That may change depending on market share or mind share, but for the time being, I think that's kind of what you have to work with. So if you want to take customers or teenagers away from the iPhone, put Beats on your... I mean, I can't think of a better way to steal teenagers away from the iPhone rather than to put Beats technology or Beats headphones in your smartphone. And so, from the point of view of, they don't have the best sound quality, maybe it's, but really from a business point of view and a marketing point of view, You can only imagine what this is going to do for HTC phones. So yeah, I think, personally, I think it was a great decision by HTC. Another interesting thing to think about is HTC now owns 51% of the company, which may seem like, why 51%? Why not just 50%? But the thing is, if they deal with simply for 50%, it would be HTC makes decisions, Beats makes decisions, and then they kind of come to this collaborative agreement. But HTC now owns over half of the company. Even though it's only 51, it's still over half of the company, which means that HTC has the right to make a so-called executive decision that the Beats side of the company may not agree with. Which I think is kind of a gamble for Beats Electronics. I think for HTC it was, awesome for them, but I don't know. I mean, being Beats Electronics, I don't know if I would give, executive rights to a smartphone company. But that's another interesting thing to think about that I think has kind of been brushed over by a lot of people writing these articles. HTC now owns over half the company, so they can kind of make their own decisions now. So that to me is kind of the more interesting aspect of this, as why did HTC want to own, or want to have those rights with an audio company? What exactly are they planning on doing with that? Is this bigger than just improved sound quality? Is this really a massive effort on their part? So anyway, that's interesting. Like I said, we don't have a whole lot of details on what HTC plans to do with this partnership, but $300 million is a lot of money, and so I don't think they're going to waste it. We'll have to wait and see. But I think, from a marketing point of view, it was awesome. It was definitely a good idea by HTC. But again, it's wait and see. Lastly, on our topic list, let's move on to the last topic, and that is leaked ice cream sandwich screenshots. So we have these pictures. I think there's, how many pictures are there? 1, 2, 3. I thought there were 4. Maybe I only got 3. So there's a couple of pictures of ice cream sandwich that were leaked, and I guess I'll just show them to you. There's really nothing else to say. So here's the first picture that I have. And you can see, at least from this screen, if we're just going to look at it, straight on, basically a lot like gingerbread, except instead of the green theme, you have sort of this turquoise, blue theme. So up at the top there, you can see the battery status indicating all of that. Right now in gingerbread, that's green, but now it's changing to blue, apparently. Here's another picture of ice cream sandwich. A lot of this has been blacked out or redacted, but you can see that a lot of the icons now match that of honeycomb. And then this looks like it's the app drawer. So we have apps at the top and then widgets. So this could be possibly that customization menu that comes up when you do a long press. Maybe this is that menu that comes up, or maybe it's the app drawer. Kind of a little discussion there. And then last picture. This is basically just the home screen. So, again, it looks, not a whole lot of changes here, basically like gingerbread, but you see some honeycomb elements. So those are the pictures. These pictures came from Roots Wiki and Android Police. You can go to those websites if you want more, if you want to look at them more in depth. But these are just a couple of details that those two websites have, pulled together after looking at these pictures. As you can see, it is blue themed, no longer green. They also say that the camera has a built-in panorama mode, which is kind of interesting. They've also said that it will launch with Google Shopper, and NFC-enabled device will be able to utilize those features. So Google Shopper, NFC, kind of interesting to see how Google makes that work. Gmail has been rethemed. So Gmail, there's a complete, overhaul of Gmail. Or at least rethemed. I don't know if that's a change in button design, or if it's just a complete and utter overhaul of the app itself. But Gmail has been rethemed. That's what they're saying. And then the Nexus Prime will get it first. The Nexus S will also get it. They say there's not too many changes. It's mostly UI things. So it's not, to me, and after looking at the pictures, this is the impression I got. It's not as drastic or as dramatic as I thought it would be. You know, if you look at gingerbread, it looks very similar to gingerbread. Whereas we were told it was going to be basically honeycomb, but for phones. And you see some of those elements there, but still kind of looks a lot like gingerbread. And now this is interesting. They mention a little icon on the bottom right, which looks like a tray with multiple apps in it, possibly the multitasking menu that comes up on Honeycomb. So let me go back to that picture. Hopefully I get it. Is it this one? Yes, I think I got it. Okay, so I think the icon they're talking about is in the bottom right here of the dock. It looks like, yeah, just a bunch of apps kind of stacked on top of each other. So it looks like that could be the multitasking window. You press that, and then it comes up. Assumingly, it looks similar to what it looks like on Honeycomb. I'm assuming it won't be what we see now on Gingerbread and other versions of Android, but will be that Honeycomb multitasking menu. So that's kind of a dramatic difference there. Apps Widgets Launcher looks a lot like Honeycomb, so that I brought up, that looks like the app drawer. That could be the customization where you bring apps and widgets onto the home screen. And then a brand new launcher, brand new app drawer, and then the task switcher again that we brought out. So I think, visually to me it looks very similar to what we already have, with some subtle changes here and there, but I think really in terms of functionality, I think once you start to dig in and get to, again, the app launcher, the multitasking, the task switcher, I think once you get into that, there will be more changes. But again, like I said, it's not as dramatic as I thought it was going to be. So I thought it would look basically exactly like Honeycomb. And then if you look at the pictures, the home menu, back, and search and all that, you don't see those on the screen. So we're told that eventually Android will not need physical buttons, but with this, at least with this build of Ice Cream Sandwich, we don't see those menu buttons on the screen. Now obviously this is a phone that's not meant for Ice Cream Sandwich, so it still has those physical buttons, at least that's what I'm guessing. But as of right now, with this build of Ice Cream Sandwich, we are still going to need physical buttons. So that may change. Maybe it's just this build. Maybe they haven't worked all the tweaks yet. But kind of interesting. So those are the leaked pictures of Ice Cream Sandwich, and that's all I had for today. Just 3 little topics. There wasn't a whole lot going on. Next week, we may or may not have a big topic depending on this whole Tabco announcement. I've been putting off talking about Tabco because I don't really know a whole lot about it, and I just don't want to make all these guesses and then it be nothing. So maybe next week we'll be able to talk about that. But for now, that's all we have. So it is open Q&A time. You can ask any questions and about rumors or new devices, or if you just want to continue to voice your opinions on what we already talked about. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave your comments in the comment section down below, and I'll try to also answer those. So even if you're not live, you still get to have kind of a conversation. Okay, so first, Windows Phone 7 Mango update, if any. So yeah, we got this, it was a leak, that Mango was going to come September 1st, which was surprising, awesome, but surprising, and we, at first we were like, oh, that's really cool, but then, once you started thinking about it, like, oh, gosh, that seems so soon. But anyway, today that was knocked down. That was confirmed as simply a rumor. Now, being a rumor, it could still be true. The person didn't necessarily say that it wasn't true, they just said it was a rumor, so, I don't know, to me, I got the impression that it could still be possible, but anyway, for now, we don't have any official release dates. It was September 1st, but that's been knocked down. Are you going to review the new Blackberries? I'm sure we will. Aaron is the one that handles the organization of, who gets what phone. So I don't know when we're gonna get it, but um, I'm sure we'll have at least a review of one of those. Okay, let me make sure I'm all the way at the bottom. Sometimes Ustream kind of jumps around in the comments. So okay, LG Bryce. I'm guessing that means you want info on it. I don't have any updates on the LG Bryce. We just know it's the LG Revolution coming to Metro PCS, but I don't have anything beyond that. Okay, thoughts on the HTC Flyer? Getting mine on Monday if the Postal Service doesn't mess up again. Okay, thoughts on the HTC Flyer? I think it's a great little tablet. I've used it a little bit here and there, and it's it's an interesting tablet. I don't personally think that Sense works very well on a tablet on the 7-inch form factor. That's just me. Also, I think the whole pin thing is kind of pointless. But that's personal opinion, and that's going to vary. That has nothing to do with performance. But yeah, seems like an interesting tablet. I hope you like it. You can watch our review if you haven't already and see. I think Aaron did that one. Nexus Prime, I have no updates on that. Can you do a dogfight with the Optimus 1s and Wildfire S? I don't know if I still have an Optimus 1. I may. I'll have to check. Aaron has a Wildfire S, so it just depends on. It would probably make more sense to do the Optimus T versus the Wildfire S, since those are both on T-Mobile. But like I said, I don't know if we still have the Optimus T. Okay, can you do a review about your Windows Phone 7 device? I think we have done reviews on all of the Windows Phone 7 devices that came out in the US, so it's probably been done already. An iPhone, that's random. No, that's a lie. She owned a Windows Phone 7. Okay, I think I got in the middle of a conversation there. The review by Aaron made me buy it, sort of. Well, it's not a stylus. Okay, you're talking to somebody else. Okay, Sydney, the HTC Vigor. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was supposed to mention that when talking about the Beats by Dr. Dre partnership with HTC. The rumor is that the first phone that will show the fruits of this partnership will be the HTC Vigor. Now, the Vigor we actually talked about last week a little bit. It is coming to Verizon. It's going to have, at least these are the rumored specs, a 4.3-inch HD display, which is 1280 by 720. Now, I talked about last week how that seemed far-fetched, but we're starting to hear in more and more devices that are supposedly going to have an HD display, so maybe that's not as far-fetched as we thought it was. A 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Qualcomm processor, a gig of RAM, an 8-megapixel rear-facing camera, front-facing camera, and Sense 3.5, so an updated version of Sense, and also Android 2.3. So a beast phone, plus it's going to have Beats audio, whether it's integrated into the handset or that shared with the headphones themselves. Who knows? But still, whenever I heard that news, I was like, wow, the Vigor could be maybe one of the best phones of the year. I mean, with that display, with that processor, and with Beats, that could be a game changer. Honestly, I think it could be. So I am super excited about the Vigor. That's probably the phone I'm most excited about right now. Okay, how big is the battery on the HTC Vigor? I don't think we have that info. At least I didn't take note of it. I'm going to check Facebook to see if I've missed any questions there. Okay, do you think the 3D phones are as hyped up as everyone thinks? I think they're hyped up, but I think it's a gimmick. I mean, I wouldn't buy a 3D phone. At least I wouldn't buy it for the 3D. I may buy the Evo 3D simply because it's an awesome phone, but I probably would never use the 3D capabilities. I've used the Evo 3D with the 3D display turned on and taking 3D pictures. It's not actually that great. The 3D effect is kind of, I don't know, to me it gave me a headache. It's not very impressive. I wasn't really that impressed with the 3D, so it's not 3D like you would think. It's not like it is in the theaters. In the theaters it's pretty awesome, but on the phone it's looks really cheap. I don't know, you'd have to try it out in the store if you can, because it's not really that impressive. Okay, another question from Facebook. What makes the phones, tablets, players from Samsung Galaxy S family a Galaxy S? They all look very different. Well, the hardware may look different. but it's the software and the UI. So they all use Android, obviously, and then their phones all ship with TouchWiz UI, which is Samsung's custom, user interface that they've put over Android. So hardware may be different, but what you get, on the display once you're actually using the phone is exactly the same if you get the phone from Sprint or Verizon, and then the tablets are the same. It's the TouchWiz UX. So if you get the 10-inch version or the 7-inch version, you get it from Verizon, or if you get it in Europe, it's all the same experience. So that's what they mean. What do you think of the phones that Samsung has announced? Could you give me specifics on a certain phone? By the way, that reminds me, I also wanted to show you guys, and you have probably seen this already, but I wanted to show you the invitation that Samsung has sent out. This is an invitation to an event that's going to be taking place on Monday, August 29th. The invitation doesn't really tell us anything about what's going on, but if you look down at the bottom, you see the Roman numerals 2, and also, you have stars in the background. And so people are thinking that this is going to be the announcement of the Samsung Galaxy S2 coming to the US, finally. So that's August 29th. Now, obviously, that hasn't been confirmed, but it seems pretty obvious that that's what it is. And August 29th is, when is that? Today's the 12th. So the August 29th is about 2 weeks away. It's a Monday, so 2 weeks away. So we're excited about that. Hopefully it will be the Galaxy S2 coming to the US, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, back to Ustream. I'm sorry, guys, I was gone for a little bit. Do you put any stock in NFC? Worth waiting for a phone that includes it? No. I mean, eventually, yeah, I hope it is a technology that's implemented very well. And I think it could be very useful, but at this point, it's not. The support just isn't there. So, maybe, I don't know, in 6 months to a year it could be there, but just right now it's not. So, I mean, you could buy an NFC phone now, but the problem with that is that most people want to buy a new phone in a year anyway, and if it is implemented well in a year, then every phone's going to have NFC anyway. So I guess basically what I'm saying is that right now, I wouldn't look for a special phone that has NFC, because once the support is there from retailers, every phone will have NFC. So whenever that happens, you'll know. So I would wait for that. I don't think right now it's really worth it. Why is Sim modded? I don't know. I guess Stewie and Flo needed some help. Okay, what custom UI do you like the most? My favorite is probably TouchWiz. I know probably a lot of people disagree with me on that, but I do. I love TouchWiz. Do you see the Nokia Microsoft video, or did you see the Nokia Microsoft video? No, I didn't see it. By the time I got there, it had been removed. So, you keep skipping my question. Okay, what's your question? I'm waiting for your question because I don't want to miss it again. Are you going to post it? You're not going to post it. Okay, well, we're not going to keep waiting for it. Okay. Okay, there it is. Thoughts on Samsung changing their name scheme for Galaxy phones? Thoughts? Oh, okay. I remember reading about that now. Sorry, I've read so much news this week. I get everything confused. My thoughts on it. If I remember correctly, it had something to do with the pricing scheme. Was that correct? I may be thinking of another news article of the 400 that I've read. What do I think about it? If it is that I'm thinking of, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I've heard some pretty stupid names when it comes to cell phones. I think the worst one that I've heard is the Samsung Smiley, which, did come out of Samsung's brain. But as long as it's nothing stupid like that, I will be fine with it. But yeah, the Samsung Smiley was a pretty terrible name, and then I've heard some pretty other weird ones. But, if you think about it, every cell phone name is kind of weird. I mean, the Optimus, the Revolution, the Victor, the Motorola Atrix. You know, we've got some weird names out there. Okay, Sense UI ain't too bad on my Desire. Yeah, I like Sense, but honestly, it's just not my favorite. I don't know, just something visually about it is just kind of boring to me. The functionality on it is amazing, and I think HTC, the little details, you know, I think they've done a good job with that. But yeah, TouchWiz is my favorite. Would you take a Pearl 9100 running OS 6 or a Curve 8520 running only OS 5? Are you more software over hardware or the other way around? I'm probably more software. Yeah, I'm more software. So which one would I take? I would probably get the one with the newest version of BlackBerry OS. I mean, hardware is important to me, and also this is going to vary. I mean, you may be more of a hardware person, but I don't know. Since you asked me, I'm more software. You know, a lot of people complain about Samsung phones being too plasticky, but that doesn't really bother me because it's you know, as long as the phone works really well and has beautiful software, I'm willing to deal with that. Okay, and consider that with Samsung's new naming scheme, we could potentially see the Galaxy R Pro Plus LTE. What do you think is the best phone out now or coming soon? You know, there's so many of them. You know, you could say a lot of it just depends on personal preference. I think for me, my favorite would be the Samsung Galaxy S2. But for one thing, that's because I'm a huge fan of the original Samsung Galaxy, and I love TouchWiz. So that would be my favorite. You know, somebody else could say something different. You could say, I don't know, the iPhone 5 coming is going to be the best phone, or, you know, it's just going to be different for everybody. For me, I think the Galaxy S2 is the one that I'm most excited about. Okay, dude, if you wait on third generation Evo, you will suffer. Get Galaxy S2, then upgrade later. Okay. Nexus S or Samsung Epic? You know, that depends on two things. One, do you need a physical keyboard? That's a huge thing. And then two, do you like stock Android, or do you like having that custom UI that adds some color to it? Now, for some people, stock Android is kind of boring, and they like having a custom UI, so that's just going to depend on you. So, in terms of which one is better, they're both very similar. The Epic has a better camera, and also it has removable memory, so a couple of advantages there. But, you know, all in all, it's just the physical keyboard, and do you like stock Android, or is it too boring for you? Sydney, is the Samsung Galaxy S2 still on top? Still on top of what? Stock is better for customizing, routing, etc. What phone do you see as what phone do you see? I don't know why I read it. What phone do you use as your personal device? I have a Windows Phone 7 device. I actually just wrote an article, actually it might have been a couple weeks ago, was it last week? About why I switched to Windows Phone 7 from Android. I used Android for a long time, and I still carry an Android device, but yeah, I switched to Windows Phone 7. Okay, what is Xbox Live on Windows Phone 7? Can you actually play Xbox games there, or is it just a Category 4 games? Yeah, it's that's actually really deceptive, and I don't like the way that Microsoft has done that, but you know, whatever. It's not full on, it's Xbox Live, it's not Xbox. So you have your avatar and your game points, but that's basically it. You have the skill points, or whatever they call them, and your avatar, and you can customize your avatar and do all of that. In terms of games, no. So, like, you know, if you have NBA 2K11 on your, you know, for your Xbox, you can't, like, magically play it on your phone. There are a couple of games made for Xbox Live on Windows Phone 7 devices that, you know, have, you know, great graphics, or that aren't on other phones. Like, for example, I think Assassin's Creed, you can get Assassin's Creed. So there's a couple of specialty games that have been made for Windows Phone 7 devices, but it's not like just any Xbox game. It's deceptive. For the most part, they're games just like you get on an Android device, you know. Okay, PlayStation is the best. Yeah, I have a PS3. So that's the thing with me having a Windows Phone 7 device, is the Xbox Live thing. I don't really use that because I don't have an Xbox. But I would never use it anyway, because even when I had an Xbox, I never did a lot of online gaming, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Do you think that it is possible for Virgin Mobile to get one of the new Blackberries? You know, possibly, down the road. I don't think immediately they'll get it. I've been asked this before, and I don't think immediately they'll get it. I think it will be sometime down the road, and it will probably be the Curve, since that's the economically priced one, and that's what Virgin Mobile has right now. How many times am I going to have to paste my question? I don't know. What's your question? What is the best carrier in Florida? I really can't tell you that. I mean, it depends on coverage in your area. Not just in the state of Florida or in your city, but just in the area where you live and where you work. It depends on coverage. I think probably the best way to find out would be, one, to check the coverage map. To ask people that live in your area, your friends, which service they have. Do they have problems with it? I know that there's certain, like some carriers or websites, whenever you're searching for a phone, it'll tell you to enter the phone number of like where you live, or the address of where you live and where you work, and then based on those spots in the city, it'll tell you which carrier is best for that area. So I can't tell you that because I don't live in Florida. So I mean, I can't say T-Mobile is awesome in Florida because I really don't know. Anyway, okay, next question. Coverage maps. Why did I not think of that? Sydney, tablet on Virgin Mobile. We haven't heard of any. No. Will the iPhone 5 be universal and have CDMA and LTE? We've heard that it will not be an LTE device, but it could possibly be an HSPA Plus device for AT&T. A global phone, or a universal, is that what you mean, global phone? We've heard that it could be a global phone. What OS do you use on your computer? I have a Mac, so I use Mac OS. I did have a PC, but it got broken, so I really need to upgrade my Mac because it's a couple of years old and I want to get a new MacBook. But there's also certain things that I do where I need a PC. The only thing is I can't afford to buy a new Mac and a new PC at the same time, so I'm kind of torn of if I should just get a PC now while I can, or I don't know. Anyway, I use both. Lion is horrible. Yeah, confession, I actually haven't upgraded to Lion because I've heard a lot, and I know I know I know that no OS is perfect. I know there's going to be bugs in it, but I've just heard of a lot of bugs in Lion. I mean, it seems like every time somebody tweets about Lion, it's some bug or something that they can't figure out, that it's not working. And so I'm actually kind of waiting to see if Apple is going to send out an update to fix all that stuff, or what I could do with that. So yeah, I haven't even upgraded to Lion yet. Actually, the other day, Aaron and I were talking, and he had upgraded to Lion, and his iMovie files weren't working. Like all of our intros and outros that we use for our videos, like the intro with the dog running, or the phone dog running onto the screen, and the outro with it running off the screen, he said those files wouldn't even load in iMovie, and he doesn't know why. So yeah, I've just heard of a lot of stuff like that. Let me go back to Facebook. Sorry guys, I haven't been there a few minutes. Any known updates to the Sensation? Not that I know of right now. Sydney, I was wondering, do you think phones will ever have triple core? Yeah. Actually, Qualcomm is announcing that their quad-core processors will be ready for tablets this winter. So we could see them in phones. I don't know if phones need a quad-core processor, but, that doesn't mean they won't get them, because it's all about marketing. Okay, what do you think of the Asus ePad slider? I can't wait. Yeah, I think it's awesome, and especially for me, because I have small hands, and so in order for me to be able to type on a tablet, it has to be like a 7-inch tablet, because my thumb just can't reach that far when it's in portrait mode, and then in landscape mode, it's like I gotta set it down on my lap, and it's just kind of awkward. So for me, it's great because I can now type on a tablet, and I think Asus, the build quality looks excellent. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great tablet. Okay, back to Ustream. Sliding tabs for the win. One guy in here has a very vulgar name. Okay. I got the new Mac and Lion is laggy. At Stu or Ask Sid. Okay. Why does Virgin Mobile in the US suck bad in Canada? The Sensation Galaxy S2 is on Virgin with a tab. I don't. That sentence didn't make a lot of sense. Oh, ha! I see what you're talking about. And if he comments showing everyone that name, I'll kick him. Okay. Do you think that Apple will give other CDMA iPhones to US Cellular and other small phone companies? Do you think Apple will give? Do I think that the the iPhone will be on US Cellular? I have no idea. There's rumors that Apple's going to release a budget-friendly iPhone, but I'm not sure which carrier is going to get it. Sydney, 6 times asking. Okay, what are the release dates for the Bold 9930 and the Vigor for Verizon? Vigor, we don't have a release date. Bold 9930, Sprint August 21st, Verizon August 25th. No one knows when is the Vigor, good lord, will be released. Woa, guys, caps lock much. I told you that like 6 times. Okay, that was a string of really weird comments. What network is Vigor on? It's on Verizon. That's the rumor for now. Sydney, what is better, Galaxy or HTC? That would be between Samsung and HTC. I'm going to say, based on popular opinion, HTC, because they have better hardware designs, and Sense UI is much more popular than TouchWiz. Now, I personally, like I said, don't care about hardware design, and I prefer TouchWiz over Sense. But based on popular opinion, I would say the safe bet is HTC. Sydney, do you secretly love Samsung? I like Samsung. I like their phones. I wouldn't buy a phone just because it's made by Samsung, but, you know. I don't usually buy products just because of the brand. I guess to a certain extent I do. Like, I probably would never buy a Compaq, but that's just because everyone knows they're a piece of crap. You know, so, yeah, I wouldn't buy a computer made by them, but just because of quality. Probably the only thing I buy based on the brand would be cameras. I probably would only buy a Canon camera or a Nikon. I know that Sony is starting to make better cameras, but it's Sony. And Canon, I would much rather have a Canon. But anyway, okay, Compaq is made by HP. I know, but see, the funny thing is that I would buy an HP laptop, but I wouldn't buy a Compaq. But it's just because Compaq is like the cheaper version. They're just not really good laptops. And I know a lot of people think that HPs are pieces of crap too. But, you know, I've tested a lot of laptops and I've done a lot of research whenever buying a laptop. And, I would buy an HP. I would probably, that may not be my first choice. But, yeah, I definitely wouldn't buy a Compaq. Your opinions are awesome, thank you. I am currently using an Acer laptop. It is awesome. They bought them like 5 or 6 years ago. Best Android phone on AT&T. The best, oh my gosh, it's 4:58. We only have 2 minutes left. My, how time flies. Best Android phone on AT&T. According to PhoneDog in our top smartphones list, which you can find on PhoneDog.com. Oh my gosh, there's an ad. Hold on, I'm getting there. The best Android phone on AT&T is the Motorola Atrix, according to us. Can you solve a Rubik's Cube? I've never solved a Rubik's Cube. I've gotten one side done, and I know that there's a pattern, like there's a certain way to solve it. I've done a lot of research on it because I wanted to solve one, but no, I've never done it, and probably if I took the time to figure it out, I would, but I just didn't care to. I was like, you know, I have so many other things to do with my life. This is just not the most important thing right now. Okay, my laptop is a Toshiba, and I love it. I can hold it with one hand as it's so light. Awesome. Okay, 1 minute left, so we'll just get some last questions. What is the best Android phone on Sprint? I would say probably either the Evo or the Evo 3D or the Photon. Let me see what we have. Right now we have the Photon as number 1. And last question from Facebook. Does anybody know something about the HTC holiday? I'm tired of asking. The HTC, I don't think we have any updates on that. Wait. The HTC holiday. Okay, yeah. 1.2 gigahertz dual core processor, 1 gig of RAM, 4.5-inch QHD display, 8 megapixel camera, but that's all we know. So, that's all we have for today, guys. Thanks for coming. And if you miss any of this, you can catch the recording. It'll be up on our YouTube channel. Or you can follow me on Twitter. My screen name is It's My Job to Know. So if I missed a question, you can just send me a message, and I'll try to answer it if I can. But that's all for now. I will see you guys next Friday at our next live chat. We do this every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on our Ustream channel and our Facebook page. So thanks, guys, for watching. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment below, and I'll try to answer it if I can. And I will see you guys next Friday. Bye.